out here until they cough up.
So they call up more money?
Yeah, they don't want to pay out anything. Basically, over the last 3 years, the cost of inflation has risen by 17.8%. This is what people who are on Social Security get paid. People who are retired, who don't even work for their living anymore. Over the last 3 years, these companies have only coughed up 1.5% as far as wage increases go. So we're out here basically just trying to keep up with the cost of living because they're so cheap. And it's really sad that we even have to go through all this just to get the basic cost of living. And they're still trying to raise our health insurance premiums. So that's what's going on, and that's why everybody's out here on strike. We don't want to have slavery in this market. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, and we think that the middle class is being slowly eroded and wiped out by them not making wages, you know, to where there's even middle class income, to where you can jump from low income to middle class to wealth. That middle class being knocked out, so you're going to have a class of elites and a class of low income, and there will be no space where you can bridge that gap to exceed. So it'll create a you know, sort of like a classism system where the rich ruling elite will be forever solidified in wealth, and the, you know, the underclass will considerably be solidified in their income, you know. And if something doesn't be done about that soon, then it'll be, you know, locked in a place like that. And so I do think a strike is needed. But with the Hebrew perspective, we look forward to a time when God is going to take advantage of his people being oppressed and take control of it and actually manage it and manage our way out of this situation. You know, it's a scripture where Jesus said himself that it'd be easier for a camel to get to the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get to the kingdom of heaven. And that's because in the kingdom of heaven, all the wealth isn't hoarded, you know, within a small few, where other amount of people are not given the same amount, you know. So how many seconds we got?
We go on.
Okay.
Ask them a question.
Okay, so what do you think would be the solution in a dollar amount that would end the strike and get an agreement going on?
Well, Ford got 25%. I'm open to 25%. That would be a reasonable raise. And also them keeping the health care benefits the same. That would end the strike if they were willing to do it. The problem is that they're not even willing to give a fraction of that. Like I said, over the past 3 years, all 3 casinos have only given out that 1.5% wage increase to their employees, while the cost of inflation has risen up 17.8%. If you go on Google and you check the numbers, which is what I did 17.8% Social Security recipients, including my mother, have gotten through socialism, which is what Social Security is, to make sure that their money does what it's supposed to do. In the meantime, they've suppressed and oppressed our wages at 1.5%, and they know what the cost of living is, but they just care not to give us anything. So that would, to me, that would end the strike. It would show that they actually value work and people who work for their living, because it's a shame that we're out here and we can't even get a fraction of what we ask for. They're not even willing to give the wages of socialism to their own. It's actually quite disheartening that we even had to come to a strike.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. I mean, in democracy, you're making less money as a worker than a person in a socialist country, you know, under socialism.
So socialism pays more than capitalism. So as a socialist, I would be better off begging the government, holding my hand out, begging the government, than actually working for a capitalistic business in this country. That's actually quite saddening and disheartening. I thought capitalism was supposed to lift everybody up out of poverty, but they're showing, if you look at the numbers, they are actually paying less in the process, and that's really sad as far as wages go. Everybody's got families, children, and everybody they need to care for. People owe bills with this money, and the whole thing is that they wanted to send all of us out on strike. They tried to give us a 10-cent raise at the last minute. That's what Motor City tried to do. With about 10 minutes left to go on our old original contract, they offered a 10-cent wage increase.
Wow.
This is what drove everybody out here, because they don't want to pay out anything. They want to pay substandard wages, and they don't want to pay people their worth, which is really sad. And if you use the comparison of socialism versus capitalism, they'll always tell you, well, capitalism is the best way to operate this country, but they don't want to follow up with that themselves. So anytime the capitalism does not actually benefit you more than socialism, I would call capitalism exploitation. I don't know what you would call it. That's what I would call it.
It would be. And the inflation produced by printing more money is actually robbing from the people who save. You know, because you're losing buying power with your money sitting in a savings account or a checking account as they continue to inflate the money currency by printing more of it and devaluing it. So that's what is drive a lot of the inflation up. Also, you have on the world scene the BRICS nations forming another dollar that's going to compete with the U.S. dollar and stop a lot of U.S. sanctions on these countries because they're going to have a totally different banking system. And they're reporting that $1 is going to be equal to 55 U.S. dollars. And to solidify the nail in the coffin, once they get the oil oligarchy to back the BRICS dollar with oil, well, then it's pretty much game over for the U.S. dollar. That's the only thing that's backing right now. It's the petrodollar and no longer backed by gold. So with that being in place, it looks like the situation of inflation is going to get more drastic in the future, and wage increases are needed now and also prolonged into the future, and to also keep up with the cost of living rising and also with the cost of inflation rising, and interest rates as well. Since that may not come in the future, come real quick, but in the future, what would you suggest would be a solution that would be more quicker?
As far as the U.S. goes, negotiations in place, because I'm aware of what China, Russia, and the rest of them are doing. I mean, the United States has been on top for so long, to the point where they've gotten too comfortable with it. And you're right. Once that actually happens and our dollars become worthless, it doesn't matter how much money a rich person has if it's worthless. So you might as well do right by your own people and invest in them now, so they can trust you in the future. And if you don't do that, you can have all the dollars you want, but if the dollar is worth absolutely nothing, you're right. They're not going to have a leg to stand on, and this will be more of a third world nation. And it's sad, but hey, that's the route they take.
All right, Monicon, cut.